Hello, welcome to the DRQ Talks podcast. My name is Derek Mugabe, and I want to start by saying or quoting one of the famous people, Tony Robbins. He once said that every success story leaves clues. Well, he was trying to say that every successful person, when they are starting, whenever they do what they do and achieve what we see them achieve, there is always a story at the back of it. And whenever that story is there is a lot to learn from it. There is a lot that we can pick from it, and there is a lot, that we could work on as action points to help us achieve our own aspirations. And the whole point of this podcast is to make sure that we bring you these stories, specifically Ugandan stories, Ugandan entrepreneurial stories, so that you can pick a lesson or two, you can pick an action point, one or two, to make sure that you embark on your own journey. And talking about a journey and talking about a story, I want to just share with you the background of this whole podcast. How did it start? Where did we get the idea from? And why are we here today? In 2019, I was at a seminary, Chisubi Seminary. And I made a very tough decision not to continue, becoming a Catholic priest. And when I was having a conversation with my parents, I remember telling them that, hey, mom and dad, I think I can impact the world in a very different way, not becoming a priest. I felt like being a priest was limited on what I could do. And they asked me, so how are you going to impact the world? Well, I didn't know, but I thought there was something I could do. And again, to share a background is that when I was in the seminary, I used to host very many events. In fact, I hosted all the events at Wachisubi Seminary when I was there. And so my talent, I always believed, was in public speaking, because I was also doing a bit of debating here and there. So one of the words I shared with my parents during that conversation, which was a very tough conversation, by the way, was that I think I'm going to use public speaking to impact the world. I didn't know whether I wanted to impact in, human rights, or I wanted to impact in gender things, or maybe entrepreneurship. I didn't know. Fast forward, I think it was like around 3 months into 2020. COVID hits, of course. I go back to the village, and I had nothing to do. I was seated at home one particular evening, and I'm listening to a radio station, a local radio station. And there was this guy reading the evening news, and I remember telling myself, but hey, I think I can do better than this guy. Now, notice I was in Form 6 vacation, but I'm here telling myself, I think I can do better than this guy. And the next thing I did the next morning was I walked to the radio station, and I remember asking for the manager, and I told the manager, hey, I'm Derek, and I'm here to do a voice test for news anchoring. And I think he looked at this young man and was like, this guy has a problem, eh? But he gave me an opportunity. He was like, okay, here is the recorder. Go in the studio, record. When I went to the studio, I recorded, I think it was a clip of around 5 minutes. And I remember giving it to him, listening to it, and he told me, you know what, tomorrow morning, you're going to do the morning bulletin. Now, I'd never done any bulletin on a radio station, neither did I think I was going to be a journalist. But well, the next morning I came through, did the bulletin. Fast forward 3 months in, an amazing thing happened. And that was, so there were like four radio stations in that district. But what happened is that every radio station was having the morning bulletin at 9:30 in the morning. But 4 months in, every radio station shifted the morning bulletin from 9:30 to 10. And it was only my radio station that remained with that bulletin at 9:30. And why was that? It was because the audience had shifted to one particular radio station. So there was no audience at 9:30 for any other radio station, apart from the radio station I was working at. Moving forward again, I land on a gentleman called Don Casey, who is going to be my first guest. And he was trying to do something with entrepreneurs, but leveraging public speaking. He had been inspired by Vusi Thembekwayo. If you listen to entrepreneurial podcasts, then you know his podcast is a South African public speaker. And we will try to do something. That's when DRQ Talks comes into play, and we are trying to host all these events, trying to use public speaking to inspire different entrepreneurs, to tell different entrepreneur stories. It didn't go very well, but we hosted a couple of events. And the best story is that during one evening, when I was hosting the Startup Spotlight event, I hosted a gentleman called Innocent Kawoya. And I remember we had this conversation, which took like an hour on the show. And after the event, he told me, hey, I think you're a very good host, and I would want to give you a podcast. Now, really, those were the best words I think I had in 2024, if I must say. And what he didn't know is that I had chased this dream for quite a while. I had reached out to many people. I remember I had reached out to Solomon Serwanja asking him to give me a podcast. I had reached out to the founder of MCI, if you know MCI, also asking to give me a podcast. I tried to make my own podcast, a live audience podcast, which didn't go well. And when Innocent told me this, I was like, I think, it reminded me of a Bible verse. I think it is in Psalms. It talks about the Lord saying that when the time is right, he will make it happen. And for me, it spoke a lot to that. But I just want to give, again, a background on what we are going to be doing with this particular podcast. First, it's going to be a collaboration with the High People Foundation. And again, thanks so much to Innocent Kawoya who gave us this opportunity. And that means really, it means a lot to us as DRQ Talks, but then also to the entrepreneurs that we do really want to inspire. So if you want to know more about High People, make sure you check out their website. Make sure you check out, for example, they have a telemedicine innovation called My Doctor. Make sure you check it out. And also their events, the High People Awards and all the events that they host with fintechs and all the work they're doing. But again, going back to what we want to achieve is that we want to really inspire entrepreneurs in a more inclusive way. So for example, we will have a podcast, we'll have a blog that incorporates research. For example, if we host an entrepreneur, we talk about a topic, we'll always also publish a blog that digs deeper into that topic and also provides more insights, more research, more data about that topic so that, you have more concrete information to rely on whatever you want to do. We'll make sure that the conversations we have with entrepreneurs are super practical so that, you can pick a lot of action points. And those are the clues we've been talking about. And also, we'll make sure that we host a couple of entrepreneur events to make sure, you have this one-on-one interaction with these guys that we've been hosting. And to wrap it up, we always be posting the podcasts once a month on a YouTube channel, probably a website as well. We are building with you. And that's where your feedback becomes super important because this podcast is ours as much as it is yours. So make sure you are part of the building journey. Once again, I am Derek and I'll be your humble host for this particular podcast and super excited to dive in and build with you. Thank you.